it's Way Up with Angela Yee. It's our Wealth Wednesday. So, of course, Stacey Tisdale is here with me.
Happy Wealth Wednesdays, everybody. And we are so excited with our guest, the one, the only, Rachel Rodgers, who we've had her up here before. She's the founder of Hello 7, which is an incredible empowerment platform for entrepreneurs.
Get into that 7 figures, baby.
Yeah.
Okay, exactly.
And
then 8, and then 9.
Thank you. And it's Small Business Month, so we want to give a special shout out and make sure that you all check out Hello 7. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Rachel's thinking about y'all's kids now.
Mm-hmm.
And she has an incredible book that just came out called Future Millionaire, which is targeted to Gen Z. We are so excited to talk about this, especially as a parent of a young. Is he? No, he's not. It's 19.
Yeah,
That's
Gen
right.
Z.
Okay.
Gen Z, 13 to 25.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, 13 to 27.
27 now, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Gen Z. No, I'm kidding.
We are.
I was like, wait a minute.
That laugh was too hard.
I was like, wait a
We all are. So this is for y'all, and you've helped so many entrepreneurs, myself included. Your advice is incredible. Why did you decide to focus on Gen Z this time? And
Yeah.
now?
Well, Gen Z is struggling right now. If nobody has noticed, right? Young people right now is trying to start their career with the housing situation, the cost of student loans, and having student loan debt, and then inflation. They don't have the buying power that their parents did. Even if it seems like their wages are on par, they're not, because they're not able to buy what their parents could buy, i.e. they can't buy a home. They can't even move out of their parents' houses, which means like you're never getting that guest room or that podcast studio or that knitting room or that gym, whatever you had
Whatever
plans
you wanted for that
when
exit,
when they were going to leave, but then they didn't. So they need a new plan. They need a new financial plan that is something other than go to college, get a job, buy a house, because that is no longer accessible for so many people.
It is such a different world for them.
Yes.
And what are some tips you tell them, one, mentally, to not feel so overwhelmed, and the mindset that they need to be adopting to come into this world? Nothing's promised. Everything's changing.
Yes.
They're having a hard time finding jobs,
Access
even
to too much
internships.
information, some of it wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of it
Exactly.
wrong.
Yes, and like information overload for sure. I think the key thing is step one is, what do you want? Right? So like take a step back and stop doing that. I don't know how I'm going to get it. We're not at the how yet. Let's get to the what. What do you actually want? What is your dream? What is your $1 million dream? Right? Like, what is your vision for your life? Have one, right? And you know what? I saw a meme recently that said the universe is not on a budget, right? Like, so dream big, right? So like, what is that big dream you have? I think we need to teach them to have that big dream and then say, okay, now what's the play? Now let's figure out our game plan to slowly but surely get there. But I think they're not even envisioning a life because they're just responding and reacting to everything on social media and everything that's being said about the economy or whatever. And they take themselves out of the game before they're even in it. So it's
That's
like,
what
no.
researchers say about them, that they are resigned. They don't have as much resilience because so much was out of their control. The pandemic, the job market, their student loan debt, the climate. They don't feel empowered in any way, so they're a very resigned generation instead of tapping into their resilience.
Exactly.
Kickstart that for them.
Yeah, well, you're not going to get what you want sitting around. Like, no one else is going to do it for you, including your parents. So at some point, you have to decide you want something different and then have a willingness to put some effort in to make it happen. Does it have to be like burning yourself out and working hundreds of hours and all that? No, it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't require that. Listen, I get my 8 hours of sleep every day, the whole journey. Right, exactly. But you do have to be willing to put in some work and some elbow grease. And that's why I think they have to tap into their dream, because it's like, what is that thing that's going to get you up out of bed in the morning, that's going to get you to go do that work?
Rachel, as you're talking about this, I also want people to tap into even what you did. You went to law school and you had a path that you thought was charted out for you.
Yes.
And even opened up your own law firm.
Yep.
And then ended up pivoting yourself. And I just think that's important to this story too, because even think about just the resilience that you had, and also making a decision about what you were passionate about, and then actually doing it, because there's a big difference between feeling like you have an idea or you're not happy in a situation that you're in, or maybe you feel like you went to school for something and am I supposed to do this thing that I went to school for and spent all this money on
right
when I graduate, and then you have to, and then you end up doing something else that you're passionate about. But sometimes it's also like taking those steps back to start all over again to move forward.
Yes, and I think that comes from commitment, because you're right. I graduated during the 2008 recession, so the jobs were scarce and the ones that were available to me were whack. And I was just like, you know what? I worked too hard to take this job that I don't want. So I'm going to create my own job. And I went solo and started my own practice. And that set off my wealth journey, becoming an owner like that. But it was just what I'm not going to do is sit here and be broke. Right. Like what I'm not doing is moving back in with my mother. So if that's not an option, then I have to, what am I willing to do to make it happen? And that's what I did.
How did you take that leap, though? Because even mentally, we talk about, and especially I think with this book, for people to understand what it was that made young Rachel make that leap to believe in herself, to do something different. What was it in you that clicked? Was it like something that kind of kickstarted that for you? What was that happened for you?
I think the alternative was unacceptable to me. And I think that Gen Z could use more of that, right? Like the alternative of I'm going to live with my parents forever. I'm going to be broke for a long time. I'm going to be aimless, right? Like, no, not an option, right? There's a vision I have for my life and this ain't it. So how am I going to get there? And so getting creative with figuring out how I was going to make it happen. And it was, for me, it was a book. I read a book. I read The 4 Hour Work Week.
Right.
Because that's what was hot back then. And that was about entrepreneurship. And I'm like, okay, this is a path that I could try.
Yeah.
Right. Let me see what I could do. And then in terms of funding it, I downgraded my lifestyle. So I gave up my car lease. I gave it back to the dealer. I had a house at the time, and I rented it out and moved into a basement apartment, that was super cheap rent. I sold all my stuff, and I downgraded my life a lot so that I could live off of very little.
Those are the steps backwards that you take to move forward.
Exactly right. And so that's what I was willing to do, to just, then I could focus on this business idea and work on making it happen. And within a year, I had replaced my income. And then within 2 years, I was making $300,000 a year. And then it only went up from there.
And the pandemic, you actually also really tapped in.
Yes. The pandemic, we got to 8 figures. And that's how we became an 8-figure company. Hello, 8.
Hello, 8. Wow. So Rachel now, looking at Rachel who got out of college, what would you say to that, Rachel? The most important thing you're going to do is?
Trust yourself. Trust your ideas. Trust your creativity. Trust your own talent and ability, Because I think young people don't realize that you are born with natural talent. You are born with skills that, what comes easy to you comes hard to other people. And learning that, like I always say, you are your first asset. If you have nothing else, I had no network, I had no business, I had no money, but I did have me. Right. And so become a student of yourself, like take personality assessments, really understand who you are, how you like to work, think about what did people come to you for even when you were a kid? What were you drawn to as a kid? What were you naturally good at as a kid? And how can you tap into that as a possible side hustle to generate some money for you?
That's so funny because they used to call me the news growing up because I always knew what was happening, like everybody before it hit. It's not like we had blogs back then, but I was always the one that knew, like, you heard that such and such was in the paper today because this happened. Yeah. And they'd be like, dang, how did Angela know that before everybody did? Because I always paid attention.
Yes.
And people used to always come to me about things. They'd be like, here come the news.
Yeah.
And I love
now
that.
Look at me.
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
Journalism.
On my report card as a kid, it was always, Rachel's an excellent student, but she talks too much. And now I get paid to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Those things are the things that are the best pathway for you to get wealth, is like connecting to what you're naturally good at. Because what you're already great at, if you double down on that, you have the ability to be world class at it. Right. And that's where, when you become one of one, that's where so much wealth opportunity is. So, sometimes people are like, I want to get good at this. And it's like, if you're naturally not good at that, don't try. Yeah. Because you're going to be mediocre at best with a lot of effort, versus where it just feels easy to show up when you are in
what
your
you're not
talent.
paying attention
You're
to.
honing in on the natural abilities that you already have.
Yeah, I think of all the things I've tried and everything, and glad that I did. But my mother and my teachers used to always say to me, you don't have DNA, you have WHY. journalist. I'm like, oh, I was a journalist before I even knew I was a journalist.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes, exactly.
What you're doing without realizing it.
Yes. So when people are like, what's the hottest business that I should start? I'm like, the one that's hot for you. What
Right.
do you get excited about? What's going to get you out of bed in the morning? Because like, you know, I coach people. I'm on the planes and I'm coaching people. I'm on the train and I'm coaching people. You know, like, it's like I naturally do it. You know, I'm like, tell me your problem so I can fix it for you, you know, and help you fix it. And so it's like those things that you would do for free when you could get paid to do that, you're just going to become better and better and better at it.
You know, Rich, I also feel like a lot of people, because we have, like you said earlier, access to information overload and access to people's lives and social media.
Yes.
And a lot of times comparisons, like this person's here, why am I only here? One thing that I hear people can constantly try to put you down for is if you have a job or a career instead of being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And so...
So silly.
And agreed. And so fresh out of college, as people are trying to figure out, or fresh out of high school, whatever it is that you're doing, when it's time to get out in the world, and if your alternative is living at your parents' house and you don't want to do that,
yes,
and it's time to get your first job, right? What advice would you give to people who are in that position right now where it can be really daunting to go on all these job interviews, not get what you want?
Yes.
And sometimes it just makes you feel defeated to the point where you're like, I don't even want to try this anymore. I'm going to just start a business and be an entrepreneur because everyone's saying entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship, be your own boss.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is if you have no money and you're trying to build wealth, is going to be daunting regardless. So get comfortable with daunting, you know, get comfortable with discomfort, make peace with rejection. This is all part of the journey to success. And if you want to avoid that, then you're going to stay in your mom's basement indefinitely, you know?
If she has a basement.
Exactly. You lucky if she got one.
Yeah, you'll be on the couch. You know?
You're right on the couch. Exactly. How long you want to be there?
Exactly.
But the approach, I think people need to recognize, one, that looking for a job is a full-time job, you know? So like I'm just going to send resumes. No, you got to send the cover letter. You have to be thoughtful and intentional and like make your list of 100 different places that you're going to apply and then intentionally show up every day and just do as many as you can per day. Like that's literally what it looks like. I think people think, I'm going to just shoot off a couple resumes. No, girl, that ain't it.
So they're not teaching them and they're not developmentally there. I mean, I have my son, I have a 19-year-old, they're just not, and he's great, but I went to visit him recently at college and I was talking to some of the students up there. And all of them were like, gosh, none of us are getting internships this summer. And they meant it. And they were present. And they're like, we filled out our resumes. We sent them early. And
no one called.
No, no one called. So I was talking to one of them and I was like, well, when did you find out you weren't getting how did you find out you weren't getting an internship? And she's like, I had to call the company, and I just called them a couple weeks ago. I applied for this back in December. And I'm like, don't you guys have career counseling and stuff?
Yes.
And she's like, yes. I'm like, so they're just telling you submit a resume in December and just wait. I'm like,
that ain't it.
I'm like, that's not how it happens at all.
Yeah. When I was applying for jobs, I applied like at 100 at a time. Literally.
Yeah.
When I was looking for a clerkship, I applied to 100 judges.
And I think they did that, but it was just their I know what it's like. I've been in corporate for 20 years, and I've been an entrepreneur. I know what it's like to work with big corporations.
Yes.
They're not going to.
No.
They're not even. That's just not.
They're
gonna
getting
happen.
like tens of thousands of applications.
And all these kids are like, oh, I want to do a internship at movie studio X or this, and they're not hearing it.
Yes. Okay, so that's part 2 of my advice, which is recognizing that 80% of the job market is never advertised. So your network is essential. And that's one of the benefits of going to college. You know, when people say like, oh, college is not necessary, I'm like, I don't think it should be compulsory. You should have a plan. Like if you're going to spend the money, be intentional about what you're going to get out of it. But getting a professional network out of college is key. So like your professors, tap them, your favorite teachers, some of your classmates, the people who come in and do talks at colleges.
Alumni network.
Yes, exactly. Like you got to tap in and ask for help.
That's how I got one of my first internships was through the alumni network because a lot of the alumni will hire interns that went to the same college as them.
Yes.
And I actually, somebody who I went to school with told me that he got funding for his business by cold calling people from his alumni network at his college.
Yes.
And because you have like access to people, and usually people will be a little bit more gracious when they're like, oh, we went to the same school. We have we graduated from the same place. And he actually got funding for his business just by making these cold calls to people.
Yeah. So the point is like there's some legwork that has to be done. Or my friend calls it footwork, right?
Yeah.
You got to be willing to do the footwork, right? So like some of that is reaching out, showing up every day, being the squeaky wheel, right? Not being forgotten. How can you be memorable? But those like booking those informational interviews, making sure people know who you are, making sure people know what you're looking for, what you've gone to school for, so that when something comes up, even now in my company, we're a small business and we keep hiring, like all of the latest roles have been filled with somebody who knows somebody.
Right.
Like before we even get to advertise it, like we put the job description together before it even up on the website, somebody's like, oh, I know someone, or I went to college with someone or whatever. We interview them and they wind up getting the job. So you got to use your network and tap into that.
Rachel, how do you feel about people using like ChatGPT when they're sending cover letters? Can you tell? And
you know, I'm fine with using tools, but recognize like the tool it's an assistant. It's not the writer, right? So like you're the writer and it's a writer's assistant, right? That's how to think about it. And you need to be the ultimate editor. So if you like, I think ChatGPT is great to get your like crappy first draft done, right? Get that done fast.
Edited.
Yes, exactly. And then you edit it because you can add personal story. You can add some emotion, more connection to it that you're not going to get out of ChatGPT. So like that's how to do it. Get the first draft done quick and then finesse it, you know?
And also with AI, it's all about asking the right questions.
Yes, the prompts.
The prompts that you're telling it, like co-writing or something with it, even telling it. But I don't, I'm not comfortable saying this because it doesn't sound like me because of this reason. And it's all about the prompts. That's a whole other conversation, right? But we let some college students know that you were going to be here today, and we have some questions.
I love it. Let's go.
Questions.
You want me to start?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So Ethan's question, what's the formula for a great interview? How do you stand out against other candidates?
Yes. So number one, make sure that you're prepared. So know what the company is. Know what their goals are as much as you can, like deep dive into as much research as you can on the internet to understand this company and like what is it trying to accomplish? What is its goal? And then if you can drill down to like if it's a large company, maybe figure out the department that you're going to be interviewing at. What is the goal of that department? Who are the players in that department? Do your LinkedIn research so that you know who they are. That way, if you're interviewing, because I used to go on interviews where you start with one person, then you start meeting other people. So it's like as much as if you have a little background on everybody, right? You understand, because that's what I look for in an interview. I'm like, does this person care to know? I have a podcast, I have books, I have all kinds of stuff. If you didn't put no effort into figuring out what Hello 7 does, I'm not interested, you know? So you got to show that you actually want this job, that you care, that you want to understand what they're doing, and you're thinking about how you're going to add value to this company, right? Like, how are you going to make all these people who work here, how are you going to make their lives easier? Because that's what's going to make them want to hire you.
Do you throw out a number if they're like, so what are your salary expectations?
I think you can throw out a number, yes. And if they don't meet it, that's fine. But understand that 87% of young professionals, when they are negotiating for their start salary, when they ask for more money, 87% of them get it. 60% of them never ask.
Right. Whoa.
So if you make the ask, your chances of getting it are extremely high. So you just ask no matter what. They're not going to take the job away because you ask for more money, unless you ask for something ridiculous. You know, be reasonable. You can easily do Department of Labor research on like what market rate is.
Absolutely.
You know, in the area. Exactly. So like do your research. I'm like, y'all know how to go on TikTok and deep dive on a story, right? Like that you're interested in. So do the same thing, deep dive on these companies and figure out like what they're interested in, why they're hiring you, right? And how you can sort of present yourself as the solution to their problem.
You got that, Ethan? Okay, now we have Eleanor, a lovely young woman. What are the most common mistakes Gen Z is making in their job search, and how can they avoid them?
I think, honestly, being lazy. It's really like, it's partly not doing that research. The expectations, just expecting, like, I deserve a job. You know what I mean? And like, no, Just expect that
no, baby.
you don't. You know what I mean? And you have to show that you do, right? So make your case. Be willing to make an argument, right? So imagine you're in a court of law making an argument as to why the judge needs to make a decision in your favor, right? Like that's how you want to position yourself, and come with the evidence. What you got? What projects have you done? Come prepared to talk about your college career, volunteer work you've done, past jobs, internships, how you've added value, how you helped with particular campaigns. Like, be ready. And also be ready to talk, like answer the questions of like, what's your weakness, or what's a time where you had a challenging time.
They're definitely going to ask you what's your weakness.
Yeah, they're going to ask you. So be prepared with that and give them real answers.
Yeah, don't say my weakness is I just work too hard.
Yeah. They don't want to hear that.
Oh, I know. We heard some. Never mind.
Yeah, it's like not knowing. They want to see that you are self-aware, right? Mm-hmm. So show that you're self-aware. And also, I encourage people to like actually be yourself. Bring your full personality to it, because I think people want to see like, do I actually like this person? Do I want to work with this person? And you're also testing it, because you might be like, you know what, I want this job, but I don't like none of y'all and I don't want to work here.
Right.
So you interview them as well. You ask some questions as well, and come prepared with questions about the kind of workplace that it is, and how, you could ask them, what are you most looking for in a candidate? Like, what would make your life the most easy? These are questions nobody asks, and they want to be asked, because they're trying to make their life easier. That's why they're spending the money to hire this role.
That's a good question when they say, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah. It's like, what would make your life easier? How could I show up and do this job in a way that would be a game changer for you?
Rachel, how do you recover? Let's just say you went to an interview and you feel like, oh, I didn't put my best foot forward. Yeah. I messed up on an answer. Somebody I know recently went on a job interview and had a bad case of vertigo. And it was, something like that. I know. And then you feel like, well, that's it, lost that.
No, don't take it as that. So what I would do, especially something like that, like I've actually shown up to an interview not dressed the way I want to be dressed because my luggage got lost.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
And so
tell the story,
right? Like tell the story anyway, and show how you're taking this challenging moment and showing your resilience and your willingness to show up no matter what, regardless, right? Like that's part of you pivot it. Mm-hmm. And then for someone who, like with the case of vertigo, I'd send a follow-up email and say, here's what happened. I'm, so grateful for the opportunity. I would love the opportunity even for a 15-minute Zoom conversation. And just like show them, like tell them the truth and see if they want to give you another opportunity. Like you're dealing with humans.
Right.
So be human and expect them to be human in response. And if they're not, maybe you don't want that job anyway.
Right. You can say something like, well, I know I stood out and you remember me.
Yeah.
Literally.
Okay.
Yes.
Now this is so helpful because they are a tricky generation, and a lot of them don't know what proactive looks like.
Yes.
Like they're always called Gen Z and even millennials. Oh, they're so lazy. They're this, they're that. And I'm like, think about what they grew up in. Mm-hmm. They didn't have those models of what proactive looks like. All they had to do was accept a lot of stuff that was thrown at them.
Yes.
So this is super helpful.
Yeah. And also, like, what areas are they proactive in, right? Like, using social media. Great. How can you use social media to help you get a job? Make some connections there, right?
Excellent point.
Ask for informational interviews so you can, like, just be in people's psyche when they see job opportunities and can point you in the direction. So like, what do you have that you are enjoying, that you are actively a part of, and how can you tap into that to help you get the job?
Since you brought up social media, let's just say when you were younger, you were in social media and you did some things that's Googleable. Because
that is so real.
Media was around when we were in college.
Honestly, employees are looking at that now. When they're hiring, they do look at your social media.
Yes.
Should you bring it up, or should you just not bring it up and hope they didn't see it? Because sometimes that's also hard to navigate, because there could be things, maybe you were young and a little wild, or you did some crazy things or said something, and now if someone does a search, it shows up. How does somebody handle that?
Well, that could be a story that you use when they say, like, what's a time that you made a mistake and how did you recover? Mm-hmm. Use that as an opportunity to say, well, here's a mistake that I made. And if you searched, I don't know if you did or not, but if you searched, you'd find it. And, it's unfortunate that that's the case, but here's what I'm doing differently now. And I use this as an opportunity to teach other people, right? Like, or whatever, but like find a way to use that as a story that's an answer to one of their questions, right? Because what people are looking for when they are hiring is like somebody who's going to show up, be reliable, and do the job, right? And so like, how can you use everything, even a setback, to show I'm reliable and I'm willing to push through and show up regardless. You know, that's what people want. So you just got to be useful. If you are useful, you will always have a job. Okay. Right. Like if you are, when it's time for layoffs, the most useful person is the last person you looking to let go. Okay. Right. Like you're like, how can we keep her at all costs? Because you can't afford to lose her because she's that helpful, you know? So that's what you're looking to be, is like, how can I show up and just be as helpful as possible, as supportive as possible, and learn as much as possible. That's the other thing. In the process of being helpful and showing up and being reliable, you learn more. Mm-hmm. And the more you learn, the more you have skills that you can then parlay into whatever your next thing is.
This is going to be so helpful. This is the stuff they're not learning in school. Yes. And something else that Rachel has that y'all will love is she has so much information on side hustles.
Yes. Listen, because here's why. And that's the other thing I was going to say is your job, like we need to stop thinking of the job as like, okay, I got the job, check, done, money handled. No, wrong. That's why you still broke. And that's why you still live with your parents, even when you do have a job, right? So no, the job is just the starting point. The job is the seed money for whatever else is coming next, you know? So use the job as a way to cover your expenses and have a little extra capital and start a side hustle and have another revenue stream. And make it something fun that you enjoy. Make it something, again, aligned with your personality and skill set. Something that's not another 40-hour week job. Like don't open a retail store that requires you to be there all night, right? For example, like no, look for something that is a couple of hours a month that can generate some extra cash. And that extra cash is what you use, some of it for joy and having fun and vacations or whatever. And then the other half of it you use to invest. Because the ultimate goal with wealth is to separate your labor from your earnings. When you've done that, now you're on the road to building wealth. And so like we need all of those steps. You get the job because you just need the initial capital. Then you start the side hustle. Now you own something. You've got this extra money coming in that is not necessarily paying you for hours, right? And then that money, because 50% of America does not invest. And the reason why is because they say they can't afford it. That's why you need the side hustle, so that you can afford to invest, because you can't afford not to, right? If you want to, and not like, I'm not talking about 401ks. Max out your 401k, and then you need a brokerage account on top of that where you're also investing on top of that. Because
and
otherwise,
the earlier you start, the better. That's why this is an important conversation for Gen
Z.
You give examples of some side hustles. There's a whole part in this book talking about that. What are some top 3 that come to mind?
Yeah. So, speaking of social media, you could easily go into local businesses and say, hey, are you looking for a social media manager? I can handle your social media for you and get more foot traffic coming your way.
Everyone's looking for that.
Listen, all of my clients, like cafes, bakeries, retail stores, it's like all reels. The more reels they post. And so now it's all about training their team to post reels constantly, right? And that's what's getting the more foot traffic.
That's a great idea for a summer job. These kids are having a hard time finding that. Just walk around your neighborhood.
Yeah, if that's something you're good at. If you're not good at it, obviously don't sell it, because you're not going to be good at it and they're not going to be satisfied with the result. Another thing you could do is live events, right? Like, could you do event planning for different companies or different people, like throw parties or baby showers or that kind of thing? That's another thing that, you know, people are always looking for someone to help them with the event planning kind of stuff. So that's another option. Another option is like something with computers. Like if you're really good, like this is how my son's brain works. He can fix anything. So it could be like digital cleanup, right? We all have like files that are a hot mess express, and someone comes over and gets it all organized for us, you know, over a period of time. That could be another thing that you could do from home. You could build websites, other stuff like that. But like really, I have 100 different options in the back of the book just to like get people's wheels turning with like all over the place, using all different types of talents and skills, because really the key is it needs to be something that's easy for you, something you're naturally good at, right? Something that's fun for you, so that it feels like a hobby where you get paid rather than feeling like a second job where it's exhausting to you.
So is that the answer to Laguerre's question for you, was how can Gen Z find financial independence and stability with an entry-level salary in this economy?
Yeah, you don't. You don't. But what you do know is that, okay, the entry level salary is like, that's my baseline that makes sure like the basic bills get paid. And then you take a little bit of that money and you use it to start a side hustle, you know? And it really, you don't need a lot of seed capital to start a service business. You just need yourself and your willingness to show up and do it. But if you want to get business cards, if you want to get a simple website done, or if you want to do a little bit of advertising, like run some ads on social, right? Like that's what you might use a little. My seed money was $300. Okay.
Period.
That this 8-figure business came from.
Okay.
So you don't need a lot of cash. Okay, you
what
need
did you
effort,
do when you
okay?
What did you do when you started?
I emailed 100 people that I knew, and I said, will you hire me? Or will you send me someone who could use my services? I said, here's my business that I'm starting. Here's what I do and who I do it for. Can you, A, hire me if you need my services, or B, send someone my way? And from that got my first 3 clients. And then from the first 3 clients, more clients came and more referrals came. And also, too, a lot of encouragement, a lot of support, a lot of help spread the word. Like, that also helps. Like, let's not underestimate the power of having some community support. Like, that helps.
And do a great job. That's really also the foundation of it, because word can spread fast when you're great, but it can also spread fast when you're not.
Yes.
And so just remember that is definitely your reputation on the line. So when you get those 3 clients, that's what's going to bring more clients, or it can also ruin your business if you're not communicating, if you're not delivering what you're supposed to deliver. And I also think what's really important is being able to grow in your field too. So you always have to, there's definitely like the school of YouTube, and there's a lot of things you can learn how to do better, more efficiently, and also to evolve with the times. Just by going online, you don't even have to always spend money to learn more.
And that's why I'm going to drill this home. Like, when you choose something that feels aligned for you, you're more likely to do a better job. When it is like, I would rather do anything but deliver for this client on this, like, you're in a bad way, because you're going to procrastinate. Listen, I'm the queen of procrastinators, right? So it's like, if I'm doing something that I really don't want to be doing, it is like so hard to get myself to do it. But if I'm doing something I love and it's fun, I'm there all day. Let's go. What's next, right? Then you're hungry and you're hype about it versus drained energetically by it. So choosing something that feels good for you, that feels like, yes, I could do that. That feels like, yes, I can deliver on that. That's what you want, so that you don't, overpromise and then underdeliver. It's the opposite of what you want to do.
So great salary advice. So listen, LaGarrett, Ethan, and Eleanor, you know what to do.
Yes.
And you're going to get your job. You're going to get your side hustle. Balance. Talk to these kids about how do you find balance when you have a job and a side hustle, especially at their ages.
So balance looks like, it's not about the 18-step skincare routines that you see on social media. It's not about spa days and all this other nonsense. It's about sleep. Okay, go to bed and get your 8 hours.
You've been talking about that since before we started this interview.
Listen,
I know. That's one of her secrets to success. She gets her 8 hours.
I'm telling you, the entire time I've been building this business, it is a rare occasion for me to not get my 8 hours of sleep.
That's amazing.
I am committed to my sleep, because you know why? You show up and you're just ready to go, versus like, if you're out drinking and then you're supposed to show up for a client the next day, you're not going to be your best self.
Right.
So you got to be responsible with your time and your energy and manage that. Yes, have fun, but have fun on the day, like when you don't have work the next day. So sleep is key. 1, movement, like get up and go for walks. Like, you could do a whole fitness routine if you want, but literally, if you just walk 20 minutes every day, you're going to get good ideas while you walk. You're going to be able to self-regulate your emotions, like all of that rejection you're managing. You regulate it more when you are walking and exercising. So let me tell you what, old people have it right. Okay, they get their sleep, they go there for their walks every day, they eat dinner at 5:30. Like, they know what they're doing. We actually need to follow them.
That's my grandfather.
Listen, and that needs to be like, listen, during the work week, this is how we get down. On the weekends, we gonna have a good time, stay out late, drink whatever you want to do. But during the work week, like, do it like your grandfather. Okay.
And they did say that millennials are drinking a lot less.
A lot of them. Totally different
and focused.
We want them to go find you right now. So where can they find your book, and where can people reach out to you?
Yes. So you can find me at Rach Rodgers ESQ on social media. Hello7.co is the website for my company. And if you go to futuremillionairebook.com, and you can get a free class that I'm teaching. So you get two copies of the book, and with that you get a free class called Money Camp. I'm teaching it May 12th to the 16th every night. So I'll be teaching lessons from the book and doing Q&A just like this with the audience. So buy 2 copies, come get this free class and get some more, get your questions answered. And also too, just getting in community like that is just you'll meet other people and you see how possible it is,
I'm glad you ended that with community, because I know that's one of the things you stress so much.
Yes.
As being one of the keys to being successful and happy.
Yes, exactly. Being around people who are also ambitious, who are also on the same path and you see them winning, and that encourages you to go, they made how much? Okay, let me get over here and do this, right? Because clearly it works.
It motivates.
And then also they'll hire you hire each other, you create this like micro economy supporting everybody and speaking your name in rooms full of opportunity. That happens in community. So get yourself into a community, and this is a free one.
Well, y'all go to Amazon right now. Order Future Millionaire. Rachel's books are so effective, and you feel like you really have a companion. So we thank you.
Thank you for having
what
me.
You've done for Generation Z, for what you're going to do, and promise you'll come back.
Definitely. And also, it's fun, too. There's some hilarious stories. My first side hustle was illegal, so they can read that story and laugh.
And for our next show, how to do your side hustle from jail. And guess who our guest will be? We love her. We love you. Happy Wealth Wednesdays, everybody.
Thank you, Rachel.